Hi, I'm Neil. This is the Faerie Museum and Gallery in Orkney, in Westray in Orkney, and it's currently August 2009, and I'll just take you for a quick look around the Faerie Museum. These are a few pictures that I've done over the years. This is my friend Mystic Matt, who posed me as the Lord of the Woods, hence the large horny bits of wood coming out of his head, and there's a tiny snail just there which illustrates the fact that he's a big giant but he's gentle to the tiniest of creatures. Over here is a picture of a friend of mine called Bara, and she posed for me on for a book called The Kiss of Two Worlds, and so this was the painting that I did of her. And this is where I sell all my prints and cards, and we've got CDs here. This is the prints I sell, and also the large fairy prints as well. Over here we have some mermaids, and I'll just show you those. Mermaids in the display cabinet. I don't know if you can see that there. And around here is another picture of mine, which is a selkie on the cliffs of Orkney as well. There's a figure in the background there which I'll talk about later on. I'm getting some bumps in this picture, which is not a good sign. Just realised. I think I might have to take that in. It's getting some damp in here with the problem of the damp in this old building. This is Stonehenge. A lot of people recognise it. I called it Earth Stones. Picture I did back in 1993. In fact, it was a second version of it. I did a first version, and someone bought the first one off me, so I decided to do a second version of it, which I thought was a better version, in fact. Here's some more artworks of mine, which you can see. That's an interesting one there. That's called the Fairy Temptress, and it's a knight in armour with a fairy princess behind him, leading him to the fairy world. And there's a tiny little gnome down there, and a fairy in the tree, and another fairy in the top part of the tree there. Just over in the corner is another picture. You can see that one of Terry the Gnome King. And there's a picture here of a girl called Knight of the Fairy. This girl worked in a prison of all places, and she posed for me. Right, take a walk around here. This is the seating arrangement we have here for people to sit and listen to stories. There's a picture of my friend Bar up there again. With the sword, I drew that. And we've got some tiny fairy costumes made out of natural materials by Jessica Puttick from Amersham. Oh, and look, there's some tiny fairies up here. Captured fairies in jars. And down here we have the fairy house, complete with tiny tables and chairs, if you can see in that. Just take you through there, see the tiny table and chairs, and cups and bowls. There's a fairy statue with more chairs and tables. And it was customary for people to make fairy houses years ago as a gift for the fairies, so I'm told. Here is a picture I did a few years back. This is the Broken Wing Sylph, which features a fellow model friend, Lara Velvet. And here's some more fairy sculptures in here. This one is from a lady in Spain called Rosa, who built this model for us. Thank you very much for that donation, Rosa. And this one is from Jackie Day of Ebron, and she built us a Norse fairy, and these are made out of clay that you can fire in a kiln. And then we got some tiny ornamental drawings in mirrors and pictures made by Rebecca Lawrence, who's from Cornwall. Thank you, Rebecca. Another of Jackie's pictures, models here. And then up here we've got a drawing. This is my daughter Morgan as a fairy, and I did this when she was about 8, I think. Did it in 2004 anyway. No, she's probably about 11 actually. What am I talking about? This is just a little bit dark there, but you can see it's a little bit grainy. This is called Daughter of Kings, this picture. And this is features a kind of Norse fairy queen woman with a raven on her shoulder. And this is The Witching Hour. This is a popular print of mine. I did this in 1998, and I asked my daughter what was in the picture at the time when she was 3 years old, and she says, "There's the moon, Daddy," and I said, "That's right." She goes, "There's the stones," and I said, "That's right." She goes, "And there's an owl," and I said, "That's right." And I said, "Is there anything else in the picture?" And she goes, "Oh yeah," and she's having a cup of tea. And you can see there that the girl is indeed having a cup of tea. And this is another popular print of mine called Gallows Wake, which I painted in 1995. And if you may remember the picture I showed you first of all with the girl, the Selkie, coming out of the sea with the seals, well then this figure was on the cliff top in the very background of that one. I painted this picture first of all. There are some more pictures. If I just pan up a little bit up here, you can see the Babe Fairy. This is a picture I did a few years ago featuring Rachel Van Ash of the Medieval Babes singing group. That's her with her daughter there. And I'll pan round here, and this is another fairy called Elsbieta the Fairy, and this features my friend Lizzie, who I met at Witch Fest a few years ago, and she's from Devon. And that's a picture I did for the book Faerie Craft, which was written in 2004. And here we go, some fairies in the fairy cabinet here. There's one in a nest, and these fairies are made by Shirley Ann McKillop, who does wee fairy sculptures, I think she's called herself. I can't remember now what it's called. Wee Fairy Tales, that's it, Wee Fairy Tales. And here's another one, and again these are beautifully made. They're not dolls bought off the street. These are individual dolls, hand sculpted in clay over a wire frame, and she beautifully sculpted them for us. Thank you very much, Shirley. Now we go back to this picture here, and this is a picture of mine called Queen Mab and Grimelkin. I have to keep looking at the titles. I forget my own titles of my pictures. Bit of a light getting on there, but you can see it. Again, this features my friend Lara, who's from America, and she's sitting on a large Belgian hare, which is a hare that we actually used to own as a pet. Now this is a girl who posed me as a fairy, and the reason I selected her is, as you can see, she's got a very cheeky little smile, which I thought was very appropriate for this picture, which is called Mischief Magic. There we go, that was a very Christmassy one, as you can see, with a holly around it. This picture here I did for the US version of our book Faerie Craft, so that features one of the drawings that's in the book, but it's also in the on the front cover. And there's a few of our books there on the shelves. And so basically this is the Fairy Museum. Just give you one last pan around. And it's in Westray in Orkney in Scotland. And you can find the website at www.orkneyfaeriemuseum.com, and you can see more of my art on these pages, and also at my own website at www.neilgeddes-ward.com as well.